But yeah, going back to school changed my life, changed lots of stuff, opened up my whole, life opportunities. But it also made me very aware of my kind of otherness. I very much was made to feel my outsider kind of status from the British.
Because I would argue that my experiences partly, not fully, but partly propelled me into what I do today in the terms of kind of standing out, standing apart, challenging people. I think that does come partly from my childhood, partly from the school experience. Is that what propelled you? Because obviously you're a good actor. You won an award that I also won at school. Sorry. But is that what propels you to go, actually, I'm going to do a career out of this? Because you mentioned my mum's a doctor, and if memory serves me correctly, your brother is a doctor?
Yeah.
So neither of us follow a family path of doctors. In fact,
no.
Bassem, who's regular guest co-host on this show, is a surgeon by training.
Is he actually?
He's a doctor, worked for many years in Egypt as a surgeon. And we were actually kidding. We were going to call this show, We Should Have Been Doctors. Right, and I just wonder, was that ever there was that the DSC career path there for you at that moment?
Well, as the youngest, I think I got a lot of leeway. Just to be really honest. I mean, your siblings?
I'm older siblings, so yeah, I'm younger.
Exactly. Yeah, my sister became a lawyer, my brother became a doctor, and I had kind of like freedom to kind of experiment a little bit. But even then I felt, I don't know if it was self-imposed or from the family, I felt I've got a couple of years to make this work. And if I don't make it work within a couple of years, I have to pivot. Because, when you come from families who don't have a lot and they kind of bet everything on you, you do feel that sense of duty and obligation. If you don't feel it, they will tell it to your face as well, So, I don't know, my parents were very supportive. I'm very lucky in that sense. But I don't know, I'd internalized this sense of like urgency to go and get it. Now, coming back to your question, does making you feel like an outsider ultimately help you? It's interesting because I think the whole chip on your shoulder and polishing it, and varnishing it. And so it's quite precious, actually, this thing. This is an asset. I see that. I think that can only get you so far, though. I think that gets you as far as you need to go to break through all the obstacles that people will put in your way.
A little bit of a booster rocket.
Yeah, I think so. But after a certain point, I think it can actually really limit you in a couple of ways. One is that I think you define yourself in opposition to other things. So rather than asking yourself, well, what is it that I'm interested in? What do I want to do? You end up reacting to oppositional forces, right? I feel like to a large extent, some of the work I've done has been a response to a question someone else has asked. In my head, there's someone asking a question like, what are you doing here? Why do you belong here? Why should we care? Why do you matter? Why should we care about people like you? And
you feel the need to answer it.
In some way with my work, I feel like that's what you're talking about, right?
Was it inevitable for me in my line of work, which is very similar questions, and both of us are getting into public life at a similar time, post 9/11, post 7/7. For me, it's inevitable. It wasn't that I'm throwing myself in. It's more like there's no one else.
Yeah.
And if not me, who? Right? That was where I found myself. And again, I was a rare British Muslim in journalism, in public life, on Question Time, and you're a rare British Muslim in a Hollywood movie.
Yeah, and so you feel that you want to represent, you also feel a duty to represent.
But you don't want that to define you.
Yeah, and then if you're not careful, it can. And that's why I think that kind of outsider status, chip on your shoulder, I'll show them, I'll prove them, I'll answer criticisms or questions that they are asking of me, that can also be limiting, because real freedom, true freedom, is about not having to respond to someone else's agenda, right? When there's those, we both studied PP, was it? There's like 3 forms of power. There was that old model, right? There's one is like brute force power, and the other one is agenda setting, and the third one is like actually having people believe they want something they don't even really want.
I remember a PPE degree, then you're crazy. Yeah.
Really?
I don't remember anymore.
Wow, look at that.
I'm old. Remember, I'm
2-0.
I'm older than you.
Well, yeah, you're at that age now.
I'm at that age.
But, if other people are setting an agenda and you're operating within that, then you're not really free. And that's why for me, actually, it's interesting you talk about comedy. To me, real freedom is about exploring joy, If you want to be liberated, rather than talking about liberation and the need for liberation and the importance of liberation in your work, in your acting, in the stories you tell. I've done a lot of political films, stuff trying to reframe how Muslims are seen. Instead of doing that, just be liberated. What does it look like to just, I'm not answering your questions. I'm not letting you set the agenda.